President Trump's call for a, quote, big, beautiful budget bill coming one step closer to reality this morning. The House narrowly passing a blueprint that calls for trillions of dollars in tax breaks and spending cuts over the next decade. There is still a long way to go before anything reaches the president's desk, with weeks, possibly months, of additional votes to come. So NewsNation's Joe Khalil following it all for us there on Capitol Hill. Joe, this morning's vote, it's fair to say, was very close.
Yeah, it was. And I will say the bottom line here is that this is a major win for Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and for President Trump. A very close vote, but they got it done. They got it across the finish line. So this isn't by far the last vote that this is going to take. It is, however, a very key step. It's a crucial hurdle they needed to get across, and they got it when it comes to President Trump's spending goals. But the hard work really is going to start now, because what this was is a blueprint. It basically lays out spending goals. So now you got to do the actual math and figure out how you're going to cut at least $1.5 trillion. Remember, last night, there was a large group of House Republicans voting against their own bill. It's the reason Speaker Johnson canceled the vote altogether last night and didn't have it because he knew it was going to fail. So what is different today than yesterday? How did that group of Republicans all of a sudden now put their trust in Speaker Johnson to say, okay, now we may actually be able to do the level of cuts that they want? Take a listen to Congressman Chip Roy, one of those holdouts who today ended up voting yes.
The White House committed very specifically to significant cuts. To us, we got very strong confirmations about the levels of cuts and how committed they are to achieving them, specifically dealing with the Inflation Reduction Act, specifically ensuring that we're dealing with the waste, fraud, and abuse with Medicaid, making sure that we're delivering for the American people with actual spending reductions. Second, we got a firm commitment from the Speaker about making sure he maintains the framework we put in the House bill that will guarantee the connectivity between spending and taxes. That was put very explicitly to us. The Speaker was firm in his commitment. And third, we have a strong statement from the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, that he is committed to $1.5 trillion.
So, Nichole, the challenge last night was that you have a Senate version and a House version of this big spending sort of blueprint. And in the Senate version, they called for $4 billion in cuts with a B, $4 billion. And the House was pushing for $1.5 to $2 trillion with a T. So that was a massive gap in between the two. And that is why the more conservative fiscal hawks on this side of the Capitol were so opposed to voting for this yesterday. As you just heard Chip Roy say, they got some guarantees from the Speaker and from Majority Leader in the Senate, John Thune. They feel more confident that they're headed toward the House version with substantial cuts. But again, the trouble and the challenge moving forward is, how do you get there?
Absolutely. And we know that President Trump is meeting with his cabinet. We are expected to be able to broadcast some of that live. So we'll be bringing that to viewers here in a moment. But, Joe, when it comes to this, what happens next? And what are Democrats and then Republicans in swing districts saying about all of it?
Yeah, this is going to be the challenge, because these sort of very conservative fiscal hawks, these Republicans, are calling for $1.5 trillion in cuts. But when you actually do the math and you got to figure out what to cut, you got a lot of more moderate Republicans that are worried that in their states, things like Medicaid might end up getting cut on the fringes. We heard Congresswoman Nichole Berlie from New York. She's been one of the most out front voices raising those concerns. She just told us that she is getting some guarantees from the Speaker and from the other side, from the Senate as well, that there are not going to be substantial cuts to Medicaid, and that they're in their districts when it comes to income tax. They're pushing to give some constituents relief there in a way that, you know, may not exactly align with the hardcore conservatives who are pushing for major tax cuts and major spending cuts. So you can already feel a little bit of the tension on two sides of the Republican conference. Those are going to be the battles, the arguments, the discussions behind closed doors and sometimes publicly that will happen between now and whenever the next major vote is. And we're going to be really watching those kinds of Republicans in that moderate, more swing district space to see what kind of a fight they put up for their constituents.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.